Welcome back to Pokémon episode summaries. Today, I'll be doing episode 356. That's just Swellow. The episode begins with Ash and the gang still on their way to Fort Tree City, as usual, when they pass through, not a forest for once, but a very deep and rocky canyon. And upon exiting this canyon, they reach the edge of a cliff and look down to see a very bustling and energetic-looking city. In awe of its size, Max checked the Pokémon to find out what the city was called, and identified it as Crossgate Town. Although he remarked how the Pokémon said something kind of confusing about it, it was noted as a city, a town, and a village, all at the same time. As Ash and the gang examined the town, Brock wanted to learn more about it, so he managed to find something on it in his guidebook, and explained that apparently Crossgate Town was known as the Town of Winds. May acknowledged that Brock was probably right, as she felt the wind blow soothingly on her, as well as the others. And just then, she was the first of the gang to notice a Swablu flying above them, having a weird ring in its mouth. May and Max really adored it, finding it really cute, especially as May was reminded of the Swablu that she helped out in a previous episode, but just then, the wind picked up immensely, causing the Swablu to start falling from the sky. Ash knew he had to do something to save Swablu quick, not wanting a repeat of the previous episode where they'd encountered a Swablu, so he sent out his Halo to go save it. And despite the strong winds, Halo was able to reach Swablu and catch it on its back, and it then flies back to Ash and the gang as Ash thanks it. And a few seconds after this, a boy who appeared to be the Swablu's trainer comes up, with Ash and the gang being able to identify the person as Swablu's trainer since he had the same hairstyle as Swablu, and he was calling for it. And the Swablu immediately jumped from Taylor's back into the boy's arms. The boy was very grateful to Ash and Halo for saving his Swablu, thanking him immensely, stating that even though he was running as fast as he could, he just couldn't catch his Swablu, and Ash simply responds by saying it was no problem, and calling his Swablu really cool. And Pikachu and Halo make sounds in agreement of this, leading Swablu's trainer to thank them for the kind words, and then he introduced himself as Shane, and Ash and the gang introduced themselves as well. Shane was now about to depart with his Swablu, as he pulled out another one of the rings that looked identical to the one that Swablu had in its mouth, and he told Swablu that they needed to train some more. Max was curious as to what the ring was for, so he asked what it was for, and Shane simply explained that it was a Poké Ring. Although Ash and the gang obviously didn't know what this was either, and they were all curious, not just Max, so Shane decided to take them to a field where a bunch of hot air balloons were flying above, explaining that every year Crossgate Town had a Poké Ring competition, and it involved all the balloons in the sky, and the rings, and he proceeded to explain what the competition entailed. Basically, a ring was suspended on a balloon, and then trainers would send their flying Pokemon after it, explaining that if you wanted to compete in the Poké Ringer, you had to have a flying Pokemon. And the goal was to be the first flying Pokemon to get the ring from the balloon and then bring it back to a goalpost, explaining that as a competitor, you would likely be fighting against a lot of other competitors, either one or three others. And the maximum amount of actual competitors would be 16, because there was 4 groups of 4. Though the reason why he would sometimes only face one trainer was because sometimes they would do multiple battles per group, and sometimes they would do a 4-way group battle all in one. Also, Shane explained that the goal that the flying Pokemon had to make it to with the ring was a hook, so it was relatively easy to put the ring on. And also, if you wanted to win, you likely had to battle the other Pokemon that were going after the ring, to be able to get up close to it. As Shane was explaining this, Ash and the gang saw that several other people were training for the Poké Ringer as well, with 3 people even training in a group, having a Wingull, Crobat, and Skarmory. The Wingull currently had a ring in its mouth after grabbing it from the balloon, and quickly began to fly away to the goalpost as a Crobat and Skarmory gave chase. Eventually, though, Wingull managed to make it to the goalpost and toss the ring onto it, therefore winning the practice battle. Ash was excited upon seeing this, along with hearing Shane's explanation of a Poké Ringer, and luckily for Ash, Shane then revealed that the competition was scheduled for today. Ash instantly wanted to join, and Brock agreed that it would be a great idea, since he could really use it to train Taylor. Ash was excited about this, but then realized that he probably couldn't get into the competition since they had probably already finished registration, and got depressed. But then Shane explained that Ash was in luck, as the Poké Ringer was still accepting contestants, and would be until the competition actually started later in the afternoon. Ash was relieved and officially decided to enter with his Tailo, while May decided to enter as well, thinking that she could get some practice in with her Beautyfly. Ash proudly pumps his fist up into the air, and we then see Shane escort Ash and the gang to a building with a screen that was basically the town's host building for the Poké Ringer tournament, and it was there that Ash and May got registered. Shane then explained that the place they were currently in was both the registry center and where the audience would come to enjoy the competition, which was evident as there were stands filled with people, which Ash was kind of surprised by, as this place was just in the middle of the canyon. It was barely even in the town. Just then, Shane directed Ash and the gang's attention to the screen that was in the middle of the building, and it showed all of the contestants that had entered, as registration was now complete. And Shane began to theorize on what trainers would be paired with which for the groups of 4. The screen then changed to show the former winners of the Poké Ringer contest, who, Shane explained, were also honorary citizens of Crossgate Town. Basically, since they won, they earned the right to be treated like a citizen of the town. Brock and Max recognized some of the winners from the contestant showings, and Shane explained that it appeared as though not only were there many people from outside Crossgate Town coming to compete, some of the previous winners were going to be competing in this year's Poké Ringer, and they all observed the screen, seeing the numerous Pokemon that the current competitors and the previous winners had used. It was literally fucking every single flying type Pokemon, or Pokemon that could fly from generations 1 to 3, from Kanto to Hoenn. But the most notable ones that could be seen were Beedrill, Spearow, Golbat, Crobat, Hoppip, Skiploom, Jumpluff, Yanma, Skarmory, Ninjask, Pelipper, and Wingull. Shane then remarked how several of the previous winners hadn't competed in any Pokeringers since their win, but now a lot of them were actually competing. So he theorized that they could potentially be rusty, so it could make it easier for him and his Swablu to win. Although Max expressed his doubts that Swablu could win when comparing it to some of the other more fierce flying Pokemon in the competition. Shane laughed at this, admitting that Max may be right, and that he was just trying to hype himself up since he was a bit nervous since this was actually his first ever Pokeringer. Ash and the gang were shocked at this, but were even more shocked when he revealed that he actually just caught his Swablu. Despite this, though, Shane tried his best to stay determined and told himself that with his training and Swablu's skill, then they had the right combination to actually win the Pokeringer, and he wished Ash and May luck, with Ash and May doing the same to him. Shane then examined Swablu's Pokeball, determined to win. Meanwhile, as for Meowth and Jessie, they were at an edge of a cliff, overlooking the stands where everyone was. They didn't really understand why everyone appeared to be super hyped about the Pokeringer competition, having overheard the rules from Shane somehow, and yeah, they just didn't understand what was so cool about the Pokeringer competition and snatching a ring, and questioned why anyone would even bother with the competition if there was no reward. But then James butted in, countering that the Pokeringer was actually a very important competition. Jessie questioned how James even fucking knew about the Pokeringer, but James explained that he used to train for the Pokeringer competition as a young boy, and it was very difficult, and required a lot of talent and skill, as well as hard work, and obviously experience helped as well, which was something James had a lot of from doing so many Pokeringers from when he was young. Also, James stated that a Pokemon's moves would greatly affect your ability to win the Pokeringer as well, not only just for the fact that some moves could help weaken your opponents, but they could also intimidate your opponents if they looked super cool, stating that one of the benefits of Pokeringer was being able to show off your flying Pokemon's artistic style with their moves. And James then revealed that he actually wanted to be a full-time Pokeringer when he was younger, but even after all his hard work, he decided to throw it all in the trash so he could join Team Rocket. James then revealed that he had a Pokeringer teacher, and went on and on about it, explaining he was actually the first ever winner of a Pokeringer tournament, and apparently one of his teacher's #1 lessons was to increase your strength so that you could withstand any strong winds that happened during the competition, and he explained that his teacher would always make him wear strength-increasing gear that was made out of metal so that he would be more in shape for the competition. Just then, James noticed an old man with a Crobat on the scoreboard that showed the contestants, and explained to Jessie and James that that was his old teacher. He was participating. Realizing that James likely hadn't talked to his Pokeringer instructor in fucking years, they questioned what the big deal about him seeing his old instructor was, leading James to yell and literally start to get fired up, being engulfed with fire in his mind, as he stated that he was going to enter the competition and show his old teacher that he still remembered all of the lessons that he'd been taught, and declared he was going to win the Pokeringer contest, and would therefore also go down in the history books. Jessie and Meowth just laughed, not thinking there was any way James could prove he was great, since he wasn't, although James just continued to light up on fire even brighter in his mind, declaring that he would show Crossgate Town what a true Pokeringer competitor was like, and it got to the point where his flames actually started to become visible in real life somehow, with Jessie and Meowth just watching in embarrassment, knowing that James was likely to make a fool of himself, as Wobbuffet then popped out of its Pokeball, forcing Jessie to recall it. Now, all of the contestants had arrived, and were sitting and watching the screen as the announcer declared that the grouping would commence. The trainers were now going to be randomly sorted into groups using a random generator on the screen. So, first A block was shuffled up, and it was revealed that Shane and his Swablu were put into a group, along with a girl and her Yanma, a boy and his Wingull, and a boy with a Pelipper. And it was revealed that the A block would be the first block up to participate. May was extremely nervous upon seeing these competitors, but breathed a sigh of relief knowing that at least she wasn't in this group. Then, another screen came on, showing B block being shuffled, and it was revealed that the competitors that were put into B block after the shuffling were Ash and his Talo, a cowboy named Volt with his Volbeat, who was apparently last year's champion, and he also had a toothpick in his mouth for some reason. As for the other two competitors in Block B, there was a boy with his Ninjask and another boy with a Golbat. Although Max and Brock didn't care about them, they just cared about the fact that Ash was up against the defending champion on the first round in Block B. But Ash was actually excited about this, wanting to battle him, confident he could win. Although Volt overhears this and insults Ash for both his confidence and his age, saying that he didn't stand a chance, and a young person like him should just go back to his mommy. Ash noticed Volt standing beside him, and he started to argue with him, and Volt argued back, but eventually Volt got tired of arguing with the kid, and just tipped his hat down to signify he was done, and walked away, leaving May to comment that Volt was a fucking asshole. Ash agreed, but as him and May both began to rant about Volt, they were interrupted by James making a grand entrance onto the stage with the rest of the competitors, and he started to go on and on about how fucking awesome he was, and how he would totally win. Although Ash and May then noticed it was James, and stated that they recognized him. Shane questioned if James was a friend of theirs, but Ash and May deny this, and start to explain that James was a member of an evil organization called Team Rocket, though James denied this, stating that he was no longer part of Team Rocket for today. He was instead just James, the Pokéring competitor, and trying to prove this, he removed his Team Rocket outfit to reveal a balloon pilot outfit underneath. Although May was completely ignoring James, because the C-block shuffle was going on, and James was annoyed by this, as he wanted May to give him some attention, or just anyone to give him attention, because he believed himself to be the great Pokeringer master. The shuffling of the C-block then concludes, and it was revealed that the 4 competitors in the C-block were a dude with his Crobat, a girl with her jump fluff, May and her beauty fly, and James, who had somehow managed to make a last-minute entry and was entering with Jesse's dust dogs. Ash and May were immensely shocked to see James and May's group, although James simply just held his hand out to May, asking her to shake it so that they could wish each other luck, and he wished May luck, stating she would need it because he was a tough Pokéringer, although May just ignored James and seemed relatively confident that she would win, displeasing James that May wasn't intimidated by him at all. James tries to get May's attention by wishing her a good battle, but May just ignores him once again. All James wanted was to be vindicated as a good Pokéringer, but everyone was just ignoring him. No! James tried to accuse May of not being polite, but May still ignored him as she just watched the shuffling of Group D, the final group, although we didn't actually see who was in Group D. It was just some random-ass trainers anyways. James then cries as the Pokéringer competition starts with Group A. The first thing that happened was a hatch opening at the bottom of the building, and a balloon came out of it and rose to the sky with a ring hanging just below it. This was the balloon with the ring that the 4 contestants would have to go to grab the ring, if it wasn't obvious. And then, following this, it was revealed that all the A-block contestants had gotten into their respective balloons that they had designed, and they rose up from the ground in them, as they were told to keep their balloons underground in a secret room underneath the building, and the balloons rose up from there. The announcer clarified that all the trainers had bunkers for them that were underneath the ground, and that's where they kept their balloons. Anyways, Brock commented, as he watched from the stands, that all of the balloons resembled the Pokemon that each of the A-group contenders were using, including Shane, who was in a Swablu balloon. The announcer then signaled for the Group A match to start, and upon hearing the calling, Shane released his Pokemon, Swablu, and all the other contenders released their Pokemon, and each of them flew in, going for the ring. The 4 Pokemon, Wingull, Yanma, Swablu, and Pelipper, all seemed to be making equal heading to the ring, but then Pelipper attacked with Water Gun to deter the others, particularly aiming in at Swablu, but Swablu flies straight through it, and the force of Swablu flying through the Water Gun managed to create a strong wind, which blew Pelipper back. Yanma then decides to target Swablu as well, going for a swift attack, but Swablu dodges. Then, Shane orders Swablu to go straight for the ring, but he suddenly feels the winds changing, so he tells Swablu to stop and pull up higher up into the sky, and Swablu obliges, while the other Pokemon proceed to continue to fly to the ring. Ash, May, Brock, and Max were all surprised at the fact that Swablu had flown down, because it seemingly had given up on the ring, but just then, the winds really picked up, just as Shane had predicted, and this blew the other 3 Pokemon away from the ring. This makes Ash and the gang even more shocked, as they realize that Shane had used the wind patterns to his advantage. He had seen the bad wind was coming, so he let everyone else take the brunt of it, but not his Swablu. With the other Pokemon blown back, Swablu was able to get up to the ring without any difficulty, and Shane got excited at this, ordering Swablu to race to the goal, and Swablu did so, going back in the direction of the goal, and it tossed it onto the hook, meaning that Shane had just won the Block A round, and advanced to the next round. The audience, including Ash and the gang, cheered immensely and clapped immensely at Shane's victory, as Shane's picture appeared on the board, along with Swablu, to show that they had won the Block A. Swablu then lands in Shane's balloon, and he congratulates it on a good job. Next up was B Block. Volt seemed pretty confident as he rose up in his Volbeat balloon into the sky, thinking he would get his second win, but Ash was confident as well, as he rose up in his Pikachu balloon. Yeah, that's right, he just so happened to be assigned a Pikachu balloon. It turned out that not all contestants were given balloons with their specific Pokemon on them, because that would mean that the balloons would have had to be made prior to the prior to the actual sign up, since they would have had to know who was signing up and all that to make the balloons and shit, right? So it actually was just a coincidence that all the trainers were using balloons that had their Pokemon on them. The balloons this time were a Pikachu balloon for Ash. The 2 random trainers had an Electro balloon and a Wigglytuff balloon, and Volt actually did have a Volbeat balloon, but anyways, the announcer then declared that it was time for the Block B battle to start, and each trainer called out their Pokemon. When a screen flashed, fully permitting the round to start, Ash sent out his Tailo, Volt sent out his Volbeat, and the 2 random trainers sent out a Golbat and a Ninjask. Although Volt sent out his Volbeat after everyone else had sent out their Pokemon, as he had a plan, knowing that his Volbeat somehow knew electric attacks, and he was going to wait for the other Pokemon to approach the ring, and then catch them off guard by defeating them with electric attacks, which they were weak to, since they were flying types. Volbeat tries to aim for Tailo first with a Thunderbolt, but Tailo flies out of the way, dodging just in time, meaning that the Thunderbolt was actually redirected to Ninjask and Golbat, and both Pokemon, since they were so weak to the Thunderbolt, immediately fell to the ground, smoking from the shock. Brock and Max watched together, commenting on how fucking fast the Golbat and Ninjask dropped, and Max got worried that Tailo would suffer the same fate, since it was also a flying type which was weak to electricity, with Brock agreeing that Tailo sure seemed to be in a dire situation. As for Ash, he saw that Volt's strategy was just to knock out all of his opponents so that only he alone could go for the ring, so Ash knew he had to hurry the fuck up and told Tailo to go for the ring as fast as fucking possible. Tailo obliges, going super fucking fast, but then Volt ordered Volbeat to shock Tailo with a Thunderbolt, and it did so, making Ash and the gang extremely worried since they knew Tailo was very weak to electricity, but Ash simply begged Tailo to break free from the Thunderbolt. Shane, who was watching from down on the ground with the gang, commented on how it would be impossible for Tailo to break free from the Thunderbolt, and stressed out about this, but miraculously, much to everyone's shock, especially Volt and Volbeat, Tailo managed to use the power of its flapping wings to go forward out of the range of the Thunderbolt, and not be shocked anymore. Shane doubted if Ash and Taylor could really end up winning, even if they were able to escape the electricity, believing that Taylor must have been very fucking weak at this point. But May stated her belief that Taylor could win, since it and Ash were a great team, and teamwork was definitely needed to win this. Sure enough, Taylor managed to go for the ring while Volbeat and Volt were distracted, and grabbed it with its beak. Ash was pleased, as he told Taylor to bring the ring to the goal, and it started to oblige, speeding towards the goal extremely fast, but Volbeat refused to give up, catching up to Taylor and using another Thunderbolt. Taylor manages to dodge the attack, but it unfortunately dropped the ring as it did. Volbeat takes the opportunity to grab the ring as it fell, and immediately goes for the goal, but Taylor says "fuck you, Volbeat," and hits it with a wing attack, causing Volbeat to drop the ring, as it was too startled by the wing attack. As Taylor watched the ring drop from Volbeat's mouth, Taylor grabbed it in its beak again, and immediately went towards the goal and made it. So, Taylor placed the ring on the hook, meaning that Ash had officially won Group B, and the announcer officially declared this. The audience went absolutely wild with applause as Ash's picture with Taylor appeared on the screen, confirming the fact that he had won. Max jumps up and down from the stands in joy, and Brock simply remarked that he was impressed with Ash and Taylor. Taylor then flies up to Ash's balloon, and he congratulates it, as Volt simply looks on, stunned at the fact that a kid, who he called a punk, beat him. Volbeat also looked extremely disappointed at the fact that Taylor had beat it. It was now time for Group C, so the announcer officially declared that it was time for the balloons to rise up from the ground where they were kept, and we then saw the 4 balloons, one being a Electro balloon, one being a Diglett balloon, one being a Hoppip balloon, and one being a Cacnea balloon. And we then see the 4 contestants send out their Pokemon. May sends out her Beautifly, James sends out Dustox, and the other 2 random people send out Crobat and Jumpluff. May was hoping that Ash would see her win, wanting to show that she was capable, and James was hoping Jesse and Meowth were watching so he could show them how wrong they were for thinking that he couldn't prove himself as an awesome Pokeringer. All of the Pokemon then immediately head for the ring, and May and Beautifly decide to concentrate their efforts on the Crobat and Jumpluff, using Gust on them, underestimating James' skill as a Pokeringer, not thinking he could do any good. So, when Beautifly used Gust, this did blow Jumpluff and Crobat away, but it actually benefited Dustox, as the Gust hit Dustox as well, but Dustox was actually able to ride the wind to give itself a boost, and it managed to make it to the ring. May finally focused her attention on Dustox a little bit, trying to use a Gust on it, but Dustox simply dodged and flew down this time, knowing that a direct hit wouldn't allow it to ride the wind, and because of this, Dustox was actually able to place the ring onto the hook. The screen then flashed, signifying that James had just got a goal, shocking May and Beautifly, to the point where she couldn't even move for a second, and she realized that she had severely underestimated James, and because of that, she had lost. Beautifly was in absolute shock as well, not knowing how the fuck its Gust attack didn't work against Dustox. Then, James was officially declared the winner by the announcer, now moving to the top 4, as his picture appeared on the screen with Dustox, and the crowd cheered immensely. Dustox then flies to James, and James congratulates it, and then gives a taunting peace sign to May to brag about how he had won and she hadn't, as May just stares at him, still shocked, with Beautifly disappointed in the fact that its Gust didn't work against Dustox still. In the audience, Shane was sitting with Ash, since they were both victors, and Shane stated that James seemed like a major competitor. Ash agreed, and was set on defeating James, fearing that, despite how nothing seemed to miss right now, he had won fair and square and all, Ash still thought that perhaps James could be up to something, and he may have been planning something with Jesse and Meowth to try and ruin the tournament. But really, this was not the case, as we then see Jesse and Meowth. They did have a bad scheme going on, but James wasn't involved, so technically Ash's assumption was wrong. Jesse and Meowth were up to something, but James wasn't. Anyways, as for what Jesse and Meowth were doing, they were currently just outside the building, and Jesse and Meowth claimed to be offering massages to all the trainers that had lost Pokemon. So all the trainers from Group A, B, C, and D that lost were offered massages by Jesse and Meowth. Although, instead of massages, as soon as the trainers actually came up to Jesse and Meowth, Jesse introduced them to what she claimed was her rare Wingull, which was actually just Meowth in disguise. And trainers started to offer some of their Pokemon for trades, making Jesse happy, as this was her plan. As her and Meowth whispered to each other about the goldmine of Pokemon they were going to get from this plan, and they both laughed quietly from this. Basically, Jesse was completely lying about the massages just to get trainers to bring their Pokemon over, and now trainers were willing to trade some of their Pokemon over for what they believed was a rare Wingull, even though it was only just Meowth. Jesse just told all the trainers that she would get more of her rare Wingull, and that this was only one of the rare Wingulls she had, so that's how she had multiple other trainers willing to trade her their Pokemon, even though, really, she only had one rare Wingull with her, even though that wasn't even a rare Wingull, but I think you get the idea. Jesse basically had claimed that she had multiple Meowths in disguise. Anyways, some trainers also offered Jesse some money instead of another Pokemon to trade, so not only was Jesse getting some Pokemon, but also some cash. Anyways, back in the building, May had joined Shane, Brock, and Max, along with the rest of the audience, as, she was eliminated now, and they all watched as, on the screen in the building, the winners from each block were posted. So now there was only 4 contenders left, and it was time for the semifinals. So the screen shuffled the semifinals, and it was revealed that the matchups were going to be Ash versus the winner of Group D, who we didn't actually get to see battle, but he was a trainer with a Skarmory, and then the other match was going to be Shane versus James. Although first was Ash versus the trainer with his skarmory, but all four of the trainers were set to get in their balloons already, so that they could do one match immediately after the other. So this meant that Shane was able to see Ash off from underground as he entered his Pikachu balloon underground, and Shane wished Ash luck. And Ash simply responded that he would try his best, and he wishes Shane luck in his match as well. And then the match begins once Ash and his opponent were both in the sky, and Ash had sent out Tailo, and his opponent had sent out Skarmory. Unfortunately, immediately after the battle began, Skarmory proved to be faster than Tailo, as it was able to grab the ring almost immediately and started making its way towards the goal, being the hook. But Tailo proved that it was also speedy, as it came in so fast that it smashed into Skarmory and managed to steal the ring from it. And Tailo then flew down to the hook and tossed the ring on the hook, giving Ash the win, officially meaning that he advanced to the finals. Ash puts his fist up in the air, punching the air to celebrate, and Pikachu celebrates as well, as Pikachu is up there with him, and then Tailo happily flies back to his balloon, and Ash congratulates it. So, it was now time for the last semi-final match, as both of James and Shane's balloons came out and faced each other. As Brock watched, he observed that it was very cloudy now, and believed that this could make the battle between James and Shane tough, since clouds could mean strong winds, and strong winds could throw Dustox and Swablu off balance. As for May, she was just wondering how Shane would face against James, period, wondering if Shane would do better than her or not. The announcer officially declared that it was time for the match to begin, when the balloon that had the ring attached to it started to rise up, because just as Brock had predicted, the wind was super fucking strong. So, Swablu and Dustox both go up, trying to reach the balloon that was going up from the wind. Brock saw that Swablu and Dustox both weren't affected from the wind, but it was still tough for them, since now the balloon was higher up than it should have been. Swablu appeared to be faster, as it took the lead, fighting against the wind, and got really close to the ring, leading James to order Dustox to speed up and stop Swablu. However, James then notices that the clouds were moving, and he decides to show off his experience as a Pokéringer by doing a good strategy, by commanding Dustox to stop, surprising Ash and the gang as to why James was seemingly putting himself at a disadvantage. But James actually was not putting himself at a disadvantage, because when the clouds moved, this caused the sun to emerge from behind the clouds, and since Swablu was so up close to the clouds, the sun blinded it before it could grab the ring, preventing it from seeing the ring. So this basically made Dustox able to go ahead of Swablu, since it could see while Swablu couldn't, because it knew how to avoid the sun now. And Dustox tackled Swablu and then grabbed the ring, and then turned back, going to the goal, and it threw the ring on the hook, therefore giving James the win, as the announcer declared that a goal had been made, and James had just officially advanced to the finals to face Ash. The crowd, with the exception of Max, Brock, May, as well as Ash, who was watching the battle as well, were immensely excited, screaming in excitement at James's win, as James' picture came up on the screen, officially showing him advancing to the finals. Although, of course, Ash, Brock, Max, and May wished that Shane won instead. James and Dustox now seemed extremely confident after this win, and James declared that he would soon win the finals. Shane then recalls his Swablu into its Pokeball before letting it back out, just to assure it that it did a great job, and he then recalled it again to give it some rest. And he then hopes to himself that Ash would beat James and get revenge for him. Ash then landed back on the building by this point, getting out of his balloon to prepare for the finals. But before he could go back into his bunker, he saw James lowering his Cacnea balloon down into his bunker to prepare, though he didn't go into his bunker before taunting Ash, stating that he was going to win, which just made Ash even more determined to win himself. Meanwhile, as for Jessie and Meowth, they were still outside the building, and behind their little mini shop stand they had set up, now with many Pokemon that Jessie had got in a net. Meowth and Jessie bragged about their awesome captures for a little bit, but then they realized that now that they had captured the Pokemon, they should probably get out as soon as possible before anyone became suspicious of them, although they also realized that they had to pick up James before they went, so they decided to go out and see how James was doing in the Pokéringer contest, expecting that he'd been eliminated already. We then see Ash and James preparing for the finals, with their balloons having rose up to the top of the sky, and the two of them staring each other down, about to call out their Pokemon, when suddenly James noticed Meowth, now in the stands below, and he was waving some flags, trying to signal to James that he needed James to finish up in the Pokéringer, and suggested that if James needed to finish quickly, then Meowth and Jessie could give him some assistance by helping him cheat to win. Ash couldn't see Meowth, but he could certainly see James waving the flags to somebody, and was shocked that James knew how to communicate by waving flags. Anyways, as for how James had flags, let's just say that if he was able to talk to Meowth with flag language, then he clearly was used to having flags, so he must have had them on him at all times, as did Meowth somehow. Anyways, James rebutted to Meowth that he refused to cheat and wanted to win fair and square to prove that he was a good Pokéringer competitor, and told Meowth to fuck off. Of course, doing this purely through flag communication. Meowth argued back that if James didn't want to cheat, then he would just have to leave immediately instead. But James stated that he refused to leave since he had made it all the way to the finals, and he needed to prove that he could win now. Though Meowth simply said that he didn't care, leading to a back-and-forth argument between James and Meowth that seemed to never stop. And in anger, he threw one of his flags right at Meowth's face, which made Meowth extremely angry, as he claimed that James would pay for that shit, in some way or another. Though Meowth was too injured from the flag hit to do anything, so this allowed James to turn his attention back to the battle with Ash, as the announcer signaled that it was time for the finals to start, as the start screen came up on the screen, and Ash sent out his Tailo, and James sent out Dustox. Both Dustox and Tailo immediately head for the ring, but James gets the lead, since now Dustox was the only one heading for the ring, after Dustox uses Psybeam on Tailo to knock it away. May, Brock, Max, and Shane got immensely worried at this, since they saw that not only did the Psybeam blow Tailo back, but it was still connecting with Tailo, preventing it from moving forward. So they all screamed for Tailo to do something, as did Ash, as he ordered Tailo to do its best to get out of the Psybeam. And sure enough, Tailo does manage to get out, using the force of its wings, and once it was out of the Psybeam, it raced towards Dustox and hit it with a very hard wing attack. With Dustox momentarily injured, Tailo took the opportunity to head straight for the ring, but Dustox quickly recovered, since James ordered it to not give up, and Dustox followed Tailo closely. James then notices the ring starting to blow faintly in the wind, and knew that something bad must have been coming relating to the wind, and told Dustox to pull away from the ring immediately. And Dustox did so, and James happened to be right, as a sandstorm started to brew right in the middle of the field, forming a tornado. Fortunately, Tailo just managed to get away just in time. Although, even though Tailo wasn't engulfed by the tornado, it was hit by the outside wind, damaging it a little bit. And to make matters worse, since the sandstorm had happened right on the ring was now engulfed in the sandstorm, so the only way to get it would be to go inside the sandstorm. The announcer then debates with the audience how this sandstorm would affect the match, suggesting that both Pokemon would now have to wait until the sandstorm was over, and once the sandstorm was over, it would be a matter of speed as to who could take the ring first, since they would both be pretty much of equal distance to it, so it would come down to base speed. Upon hearing this, Brock, Shane, Max, and May were now concerned about what would happen during the remainder of this battle, as they wondered if the sandstorm would dissipate at all, and if the sandstorm would even give the Pokemon a chance to get the ring. As for James and Dustox, they decided to just wait out the sandstorm, as the announcer had suggested, but Ash had other plans, as he asked Tailo if it would willingly go into the sandstorm, and Tailo nodded, leading everyone to get shocked, as Tailo flies directly into the sandstorm. James wasn't worried at all, though, as he just taunted Ash, stating his belief that Tailo will just wear itself out by going into the sandstorm, and then Dustox could just get the ring when it was over, and Tailo was basically defeated. Sure enough, as soon as Tailo entered the sandstorm, it was having a lot of trouble braving it. Ash tried to encourage it to do its best, but the sandstorm was just too much, and Tailo was knocked out of the sandstorm and blown back to Ash's balloon, just outside of it. Ash yelled to it, encouraging it the best he could now, telling it to get that goddamn ring. Tailo wanted to make Ash happy, so it obliged and flew back into the sandstorm, although things still weren't going well. Suddenly, though, Tailo let out a super loud squawk, and it started to glow, shocking Ash and Pikachu immensely as they watch as large wings and talons grow from Tailo, and when the glowing stopped, it revealed that this glowing was of course Tailo evolving, and it was now its maximum stage, Swellow. Upon seeing this evolution, James started to worry about what Swellow was capable of, while Brock, Max, May, and Shane now had a new sense of confidence in Ash, knowing that Swellow could likely brave the winds a lot better. And Ash knows this as well, since Swellow's wings were a lot bigger, and it just looked a lot tougher. And Ash came to the conclusion that Tailo must have really wanted to do good for him, so it decided to evolve because of this. It basically mustered up so much pent-up desire that it was able to evolve or some shit. Sure enough, just as Ash thought, when Tailo started to fly through the sandstorm, it spun rapidly, although this just increased its speed. It didn't throw it off balance at all. In fact, it didn't even seem affected by the high winds at all. It was just spinning voluntarily to increase its speed. Eventually, Swellow's spinning, combined with some wing attacks, was enough attack power and spinning power to outspin and outdo the sandstorm, stopping it and bringing the skies back to normal. So, with the sandstorm now gone, Swellow hurriedly rushed over to the ring and grabbed it inside of its mouth, although James desperately tried to take the ring from Tailo by having the Dustox use Poison Sting. And unfortunately, much to Max, May, Brock, and Shane's shock, the Poison Sting was actually too fast for even Swellow, and Swellow got hit. And since Swellow was weakened by this Poison Sting, this allowed Dustox to come up to it and tackle it, causing Swellow to drop the ring. So the ring started to fall from Swellow's mouth to the ground, although Swellow soon recovered and saw that Dustox was already flying down to catch the ring for itself. So Swellow took action by chasing after Dustox, trying to get the ring back first. Although Ash saw that Dustox was way closer to the ring than Swellow, so he quickly thought of a strategy, telling Tailo to use a wing attack. So Tailo obliges, charging up its wing power and then cutting in front of Dustox, since the wing attack increased its speed, and then it uses the wing attack not on Dustox, but on the ring to send the ring flying away, and thankfully, the ring doesn't just fall aimlessly, but the ring actually ends up getting knocked directly onto the goal, the hook. So since Swellow had put the ring on the hook, Ash and Swellow were officially declared the winners by the announcer, as an indication that Ash had scored a goal showed up on the screen, and then a picture of Ash officially declaring him the winner showed up on screen, as well as Dustox crashed to the ground after being grazed by the wing attack after all, even though Swellow wasn't even aiming for it. Although at the last second, Dustox managed to save itself, but it was so flustered from almost being knocked down that it ended up knocking into the hook. The announcer officially declared Ash not just the winner of the round, but the winner of the entire Pokéringer contest, as Ash cheered immensely, and Swellow flew back up to him, leading Ash to scan Swellow with his Pokédex to learn more about it. As for James, he was now crying in his balloon, heartbroken at the fact that he lost and had disappointed his master, realizing that his master probably saw his failure of a performance. Brock, Max, May, and Shane cheered immensely for Ash when suddenly they, along with everyone else, noticed Team Rocket's Meowth balloon with Jessie, Meowth, and Wobbuffet inside, and they immediately flew up to James's balloon, with all of the stolen Pokemon in the balloon's basket. Now that James was done in the Pokéringer contest, Meowth and Jessie had decided to come back and get him, and Jessie and Meowth did the motto without James, as he was still too busy crying, although Wobbuffet jumped in and joined the motto as well, and the motto also happened to deal with Meowth still being disguised as a fake rare Wingull. By the time Jessie and Meowth were done the motto, it was then that all of the people who had lost in the Pokéringer, who were in the audience, noticed the net full of their Pokemon and demanded that Jessie return them, although of course Jessie refused. So Ash took action, feeling responsibility as the winner of the Pokéringer to do something, as he had Swellow use Wing Attack as it flew in and used Wing Attack to slice the net open, allowing the captured Pokemon to be set free, and they all fell down to their trainers, being caught by them. And then Pikachu used his Thunderbolt to send both Team Rocket's balloon and James's, the Cacnea balloon, blasting off. While Team Rocket was blasting off, James was still crying about his loss in the Pokéringer, and James and Meowth were Jessie and Meowth were complaining, worried that they would have to deal with a terminally depressed James for all eternity now. Upon seeing how Ash quickly dealt with Team Rocket and saved all the Pokemon, all the competitors that lost and the general audience cheered immensely loudly as Ash waved to the entire crowd with Swellow, and this was shown on the screen. Shane, Max, Brock, and May then approach Ash and congratulate him on his victory, with Max saying that seeing Tailo evolve into Swellow was the highlight of the match for him, and Shane states that Ash and Swellow definitely made a great team, just as May had said before when talking about Ash and Tailo. Ash thanks Shane for the compliment and examines his new Swellow, and thanks it for all its help today, with Swellow simply nodding confidently, assuring Ash basically that it would always help it, no matter what. The announcer then gives Ash his reward for winning the Pokéringer, which was an honorary lifetime citizenship of Crossgate Town, as well as an induction into the Pokéringer Winners Hall of Fame, and we then see a picture of Ash and Swellow that was screen capped from the video of Ash waving to the audience. And this picture was placed alongside all the previous winners of the Pokéringer contest, including Volt and his Volbeat.